our visit to Sing Sing Prison. We wanted to offer an unedited glimpse of prison life in this program, and it contains language that some may find offensive.
On May 9, 1831, French aristocrats Alexis de Tocqueville and Gustave de Beaumont arrived in Newport, Rhode Island to begin a 9-month tour of the United States with the official purpose of writing a report on the American prison system for their government. The report, entitled The American Penitentiary System and Its Application in France, was the result of Tocqueville and Beaumont's visits to 12 prisons in 7 different states and the District of Columbia. The first penitentiary they saw was Sing Sing. On May 29, 1831, the two men sailed up the Hudson River about 30 miles north of New York City to visit and study the prison located on the river's banks. They would remain there for 9 days. Recently, C-SPAN toured the same facility, talking with inmates, correctional officers, and historians about prison life and how the place has changed since Tocqueville's visit. Coming up, the prison today, and also a look at the old prison cell block where Tocqueville and Beaumont conducted their studies.
This cell block in 1831, when Tocqueville came here, had 4 tiers to it. Later on, it was added. During the year, as many as 2,100 inmates were locked in this particular cell block. It was 6 tiers high. The cell block itself was classic, what was called the Auburn cell block. And the Auburn cell block was based on the Auburn, or the silent system, as opposed to the solitary system from Pennsylvania. And the silent system was also a congregate system. The congregate system allowed inmates to work together during the daytime in common labor, such as quarrying stone or in the various shops in the facility. But at night they would come into this cell block and they would continue the so-called solitary system in the evening. Tocqueville felt very nervous in this setting because the inmates were so quiet during the day. There were no walls around this prison until 1877. And the only thing that kept the inmates from, that he felt, from escaping or rioting was that they were quiet, they were totally separate as far as communication is concerned. And if there was any if anybody talked to anybody else, they were dealt with immediately with the cat o' nine tails, and rather severely. So they weren't. The inmates were controlled by fear, and Tocqueville felt that was a little precarious. The so-called Auburn cell block became the pattern as opposed to the Pennsylvania system in this country. And it's interesting to note that when we built the new prison up on the top of the hill in the 1920s, and the big cell blocks, A and B block, weren't completed until the 1930s, the construction of the configuration, the architectural configuration is identical to this cell block, which was built 100 years prior. So it's pretty interesting that they created this system and it carried on 100 years later.
Come on, Lieutenant. We're going to A block. How are we doing? This is we're still making our way through the prison to the big housing units. This is the trail the officer got to take.
4 or 5. This is what we call 7 building bypass.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. All right? All right. As you see, we have a yellow line in the middle of the hall. All inmates walk to the right when they're going down the halls. Why is that? Just keep them in some kind of...
Where's that group going?
Organization.
Hospital? All right, let us go first. We're going to go to A block.
The whole idea is to keep control of them. You got one officer escorting.
We're going to A block.
40 to 60 inmates. You can see it here now.
All right, we're going to A block. It's the commissary area. This is where the inmates make their purchases. We can go in there later when we come out of A block. All right? All right, good morning.
704,
Sarge. As you can see, loud, busy. Let me see what the census is today. Hey, what's our census today? What's our block census? 624? All right, we got 624 inmates locking in here today. That's what I was wondering.
All right, good.
We didn't give you okay for it.
Let the world know that they beat me down like Rodney King because I was a black man. Rip it up!
Give
inmates come out of the gym, they hand me their ID, I log them in the book, what telephone they're on, name, number, what time they're on, what time they're off. We also monitor the phones out front, listening, picking up information.
How long are they allowed to talk on the phone?
We give them about 10 to 15 minutes.
And how many times a day?
Get one phone call a day. The people on the other end are paying for these calls.
Take back to 743.
Yeah, and they're not allowed to keep the sheets up there for a long period of time. So an officer would come by or a sergeant would come by and they'll pull the sheets down. They're not allowed to have the sheets up. That way we can't see what's going on inside the cell. He could be in there dead for all we know. That way we just make sure all the sheets are down. He's only using that sheet for clients to use the bathroom. That's about it. Once he does that, completes that, he must take that sheet down. Or the officer will come by and pull it down.
This facility here is a very tight facility, maximum A. Lock in, do, you don't, you stay locked out. Locked down, you know what I'm saying? And from there on, it's about programs. If you have a program, you go to your programs. If not, you have some people that consist of going to the yard. If not to the yard, you go to the gym. From there, either you go to the gym or either you go to work or you stay locked in a cell. The preference is up to you. You know, preference is it's all up to you. Depending how well you want to do your time, that's how easy it can be. But if you want to be a hard knock, it stays locked.
It sucks. This is not the place for anyone. As you can see, the living quarters is real messed up. You gotta be, in certain jails, you gotta be in your cell 23 hours a day. It's just, you know, it's real messed up. Grievances, everything, you know. This ain't the place. I got 9 years in for robbery in the 2nd degree. I'll be going home June 30th of this year. That was my 5th board, and I made it. So I'm proud of that.
Cell, 6x9 cell. Yeah, some cells have, as you see here, they have a pipe where you can hang your clothes. Desk, table, bed, toilet, sink. All the rest is all up to you. You get it, you work for it, you got it. You don't work for it, you don't get it. Fan, lamp, books. See it all here? It's all here. All here. It's all you can work with.
How many personal items and effects are you allowed to have?
Personal items, 4 shirts, 3 pair of pants, 2 or 3 pair of boots, sneakers, to a limit of 5, you know, sporting goods, weight belts, you know, things as such. Myself, I'm into powerlifting, so you can see I'm all about weights. You know, I do a lot of reading. See my books. I have books here. I have books underneath the bed. By me being a clerk, I have a large amount of papers here that I need on a daily basis. As far as that goes, it's one day at a time, and you stick to, I do my job, and that's it.
Long, tiring, days get stressful, but you got to deal with it. You got to, not too much the officers you got to worry about. It's more the inmates want to come at you, retaliate, but we're not the ones who put them here. I guess it's just a lot of stress people deal with. They don't know how to alter their problems, so they just take it out the best way they know how. Now you got people with knives, razors, that constantly look over your back over stupid things. Dude might try to kill you for a pack of cigarettes. Just got to be careful.
Everything is deadly. Everything. Inmates play basketball, soccer, visit a room together, draw, everything.
Please get me out of this shit.
There's a lot of problems, though. Cutting, stabbings. I'm not going to say rapes. All that doesn't happen. If a person, is into that, that's what would happen. If that's a person's or inmate's, sexual desire, then that'll happen. But there's no rapes and none of that. When you get caught with a shank, a razor or ice pick or something like that, you go to the box, and down there it's either worse than here because you lock in your cell 23 hours a day with the exception of 1 hour for rec. And that's about it. It even sucks even worse. 3 showers per week and nothing. You got to wear state clothes. And the food seems like it's worse down there,
What the inmates do when they come in the mess hall, they each grab a fork, a utensil. They come on a line, they come down to the mess hall, and they get on a line and they get to the feed-up line. They get their food, then the officer stands there and he seats each man individually in a seat. Once all the men have been seated, they all eat their food. Before the officer makes them leave the mess hall, he makes sure that everybody's finished eating. Majority of the guys are finished eating. And then in one time, he tells the whole unit, the whole gallery, to leave the mess hall at one shot.
Are they allowed to get seconds?
No. They're not allowed to have seconds.
Of being so congested with all types of mentality of people who've committed crimes, you have to watch your back as much as possible here. You have to be careful. You have to mind. You're supposed to mind your own business, but you either do or you don't. And if you don't, and you mingle, you live by a sword, you die by the sword sooner or later. Things happen here because of congested, overpopulated, not having enough to do or taking on a certain action to accommodate your time, well spent. I mean, anybody can do time, but it's what you do within your time, time period. If you focus positive towards a goal in order to have something when your time expires, that's up to the individual.
How much time do you have left?
How much time do I have left? I have a little under 3 years. I'm bringing up 25 years before I go to my first board.
Let's let the officers through. Going on M gallery. I'm gonna hit M40. Never sleep on them. Always be aware of what your surroundings. M40. So get some greens on, step out of the cell. And turn your light on. officer in here to search the cell. The cell is a routine search. It comes from the depth of security, the information to do a cell search. And we're looking for hidden contraband, drugs, money, weapons, anything that they're not supposed to have. Cell compliance. All the cells got to be maintained the same way. The officer here? Smithwick, he's going to do it? He's going to.
We got 2 men to do it, sir.
Okay. I don't want to hold him up. Let him in. Come on in. Knock it out.
Okay. Both of you? Both of you do your thing. The regular routine cell set. Yeah, that's 8:40.
Off the bars too when you're done. The covering on the sink, make sure that comes down.
For any kind of contraband, drugs, weapons, money. Taking cell section by section. As I'm taking things down, I'm placing it neatly. Checking each individual piece. Yep. There's supposed to be no dry clothes being hung.
Coming out, whatever inmates are left that are not in program, they're going to be going direct, they're going to go down to the yard.
Trying to keep it nice and neat.
Get down here at 8 o'clock. Take that walk.
Same time.
Depending on how much stuff is in the cell, they can spend 15 minutes to 25 minutes in the cell. Watch what he finds, what he takes out, frisk before he takes it out, and he's gonna go take a shower and go about his business, all right? Anything he takes out, as long as it's been frisked, you don't have to frisk it, all right? All right, officer, we're gonna take off, all right? Yeah. All right, we got more coming through. You can go walk right through, follow the officer, make a right when you go through there. I'll pull up the rear.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Saying you got a lot of officers that bring in weapons for money, and you just look around and you know, you see where you get weapons from, breaking them off things, sharpen them, and you know. In a way, this place somewhat helps you, but it makes you, it can damage you too, because you learn how to make weapons here, you learn how to conceal things, and you know, it's just, you know, I don't don't know.
What type of problems do you have with correctional officers bringing in weapons or contraband?
That question there is, I could answer it like this, okay? Given any type of environment that anyone will work in a security field, there's always the possibility that you will have that type of situation. And you address it as it happens. I cannot speak on what might pertain to this particular facility, but there's always a possibility that something like that can happen. And it has happened, but again, I cannot speak on any particular situation at hand. This is a tough job that we deal with on a daily basis, dealing with the inmate population that's here. Correctional officers have to work a minimum of 25 years before they retire. I would love to see a 20-year retirement for the officers that work behind the walls. Given the pay scale that correctional officers receive, I would love to see more money for the security personnel that work behind the walls. It's a tough job that we do. It's a thankless job that we do, and it's a misunderstood job that we do every day on a daily basis by the, I'd have to say, the legislators up in Albany.
Keep blocks get 3 showers a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 10 minutes from the minute they get out of their cell until the minute they step back in. Other than that, they're allowed to go to medical call-outs, legal call-outs, and psychological call-outs. Then they're locked in for the rest of the day.
I come in at 6:45 in the morning, and I pray every day that I get to go home at 3 o'clock. 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day. That's basically it. There's been a lot of scares. There's been a lot of scares in my life as a correctional officer at Sing Sing. You know, prison is prison. There's no prison that's a safe prison. Every prison is a dangerous prison, particularly a maximum A facility like Sing Sing.
I don't really say I have much of a relationship with the prisoners besides a working relationship with them. They know how I run my job, and I know most of these guys because I've been here a while. Other than that, there's no real relationship with these guys. And, try not to develop a relationship with an inmate. Keep it on a professional level.
Ready, front. Eddie's. Zudo. Here. See me after lineup. Richard. Here. See me after lineup. Lambert. Here, sir. See me after lineup. Anybody that have a job? See me after lineup.
Supervisor tonight, Captain Morgan. See Lieutenant Magwood has the house. Lieutenant Miller is in the field. Sergeant Webb in the box. Belcher has 5 and 7. Myers has the charts. Kerrigan is a tap in. Paulie and Belden in A block. Fulton and Belden in B block. Fulton and Brown in B block. Sergeant Algiers in the mess hall.
All right, B block is still acting up a little bit tonight, but we're going to run regular mess hall. Give them an opportunity to do what they're going to do, or just follow the rules and regulations. We're going to run regular mess halls, get them in and out of that mess hall. We're going to run regular programs tonight. They're going to the yard tonight. We will have a camera up in the tower, and we're going to give them an opportunity to behave themselves, right? I don't expect a problem. They had 1 or 2 incidents today during the meal, but we're going to get that mess hall in there, in and out of there in about an hour to an hour and a half, right? One other thing, now they had a few incidents in the mess hall yesterday, and one of the officers wrote a misbehavior report indicated that the inmate brushed by me using his chest or something like that. If you have any incidents, make sure you tell your sergeant, in any incident like that, I want a violent conduct charge on the misbehavior report. They're not charging them with the right charges. We can't tier it right. We can't handle it right. Right? If he's making physical contact with a correctional officer, I don't want to tip the mess hall. Let your area sergeant know, and when you write that report, make sure you either include assault or violent conduct. Very important, the main 2 charges. Lieutenant?
Okay, there was 3 UIs today in B block. On the cell first, they picked up a shank in Q66 cell. And moving an inmate over to the box, they found a razor, single-edged razor blade he had on him, on his person. Other than that, it was basically quiet in B block. We shouldn't have a problem tonight. We're going to move in a timely fashion. Sergeants?
Yes, sir. Last night, we had an incident in the hallway where when you escort these key blocks, they are to be pat frisked going and coming from medication. They're storing their weapons in the windowsill on the way up, and luckily we had the officer who was very observant. We were able to retrieve one long plunger. They're taking the plunger from the snake and wrap them up, put them up there, and when they get ready to do work, that's how they're doing it. So we're going to apprehend them prior to them leaving that block.
Yeah, and the cell searchers, you should check those push button for the sink and the toilet. Just pull on them, see if they come out. If they come out, pull it all the way out. They sharpen them up and use it for shanks. Sometimes they'll pull out and there won't be anything wrong with it. Sometimes they won't pull out. Sometimes you'll be lucky and hit pay dirt yourself. It's UI to year itself.
Okay, are there any questions? Lou?
All right. We've all been through the academy and you've all been taught to do what you got to do. Tonight, if it comes about, we do what we have to do. Number 1 is I want each one of you to know who's working with you and to be accountable for that person. If something goes down, I want you to know where your partner is. I want you to be protecting of your partner. We're number 1. All right? We know how to take care of and control the inmates and the custody and get what they're supposed to get. What we have to practice is working together. And the biggest thing here is working together is we all go home safe. That's what I want you to concentrate on tonight. No matter how good we are, we're not going to prevent everything that's going to happen in this facility. But I expect you to be good enough to prevent your fellow officer from taking something that he doesn't deserve. Watch your back, watch your partner's back, watch your officer's back, and we'll all go home safe. That's what I got to say.
Officers, stand up. Have a safe tour. Good job. All right, here.
Right now we're in Taipan Recreation Area. This is a minimum security area here where we have approximately about 480 inmates here. This is their recreation time. And as you can see, this is the handball area right here. Inmates are playing handball. And to the extreme left over here is a weight area. This is where all the inmates are out there aggression, in the weight area.
How often are they allowed to have this time period?
They're allowed to have this time period every day. Every day they're allowed to come out to the yard, good weather or bad weather, and do what they want to do as far as exercise goes.
For how long?
Well, for about 2 hours. 2 hours, 2.5 hours in the daytime, 3 to 4 hours in the afternoon. Then they're locked back in for another general count again, population count. As you can see over that area over there, That's the maximum security inmates. They're separated by the fence, and they stay in their area over there.
This place household shut down. It needs to be shut down. Yeah, we need trappers in here. We want out of here.
There's no interaction as far as recreation area goes. All the recreation areas are separated. A block, B block, Taipan, they all have their own separate exercise areas where they recreation at. Now if they go to the chapel area, they can mix there, they can mix in the school, in them areas. It's the only way you're gonna have them mixing together.
Peace to y'all, peace to y'all. Yo, we break the law, we gotta go behind the fucking wall. Superintendent breaks the fucking law and he gets transferred to another joint. What's up? Straight.
Officer. What's the census here today?
73.
73? Okay. Hey, Ferguson. Hey. You take a CQ? I don't want to do something a little sprucing up.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, it's not much to tell. It's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, this is your living space. Everything you own goes here. You have a locker. You can't have any pictures or anything up on the wall, so any pictures or anything you have go on the wall in your locker. Like that.
Who's that picture?
It's my wife. And, basically, I mean, this is it. Your bed, you can keep things under your bed, but you have a property limitation of how much you can keep under the bed. It has to be neat. You can't have things hanging all around and everything.
What other type of personal effects are you allowed to keep in here?
Basically, you have a limitation on everything you can have, from underwear to state-issue clothing to personal clothing. Anything that's in excess, if you're subjected to a search, then they'll take any excess property that you may have, or any property like typewriter. I have my typewriter here. I left my instrument up in the chapel, but all of those things have to have a permit, a slip that says that it's yours, has to be engraved. Any radio or anything like that has to be engraved, and if it's not engraved, if you're searched, then they'll take it from you.
What about the bed? How comfortable is it?
Well, actually, I had some chance to break this one in, so it's relatively comfortable. Some guys have the hard beds. Basically, all you have under here is springs.
How do you get classified to the medium security area in this environment as opposed to the maximum security in a cell?
It's based on how much time you have left before your earliest parole eligibility date, the classification of your crime, the classification of how many disciplinary infractions you have. All of those things come into play. Depends on, and then they reclassify you as medium, and then when you get even shorter, if depending on what your time is, how much time you have at the end of your sentence, you can be classified as minimum as well.
In my honest opinion,
I got something to say.
To a certain extent, there are a few differences. I personally feel that most of the men in here give the females more respect than they do the males, believe it or not. You ready to do it? Shut off TV. Watch your ears. On the count! We're on the count, guys. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 38, 39. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Zidane Zamilio with a count. I have 73, 71. No, I'm sorry, 73, 72, 1. Apologize. Hospital 4th. Yep. 4th. Bye.
Well, down here is a lot better than up the hill. I mean, up the hill is a madhouse. You know, and, it's a little more comfortable down here. You have a little more freedom. You know, I mean, there's petty things that you have to deal with, but after you're in prison for a while, you're used to that. You know what to expect. And, you can basically stay out of trouble if you just mind your own business, really. And, but I'd rather be here than up the hill.
What kind of trouble are you talking about? Talk about staying out of trouble.
You know, when you get a lot of people living together like this, there's some violence and there's some drugs and stuff like that. And but you can stay away from that if you want to. But there's always you have different cultures here. You got black, white, Puerto Rican. A lot of times they don't get along. They see things differently. But when you get down here, it's a little different. You don't focus on that. When you're up in a max joint, it seems to focus on that, on gangs and stuff. But down here, you want to stay here. You don't want to go back up there. So,
I leave. I'll be out of here in '98. I've finished up with 13 years. So it's been a long time.
13 years. What was your crime, and what are you planning to do when you get out?
My crime was manslaughter, and when I get out, I'm going back to work as a welding, general construction. Something I did when I was out there, and I just continued more training at another facility before I came here. Just to keep my skills up to date. So I guess I'm ready to leave now. I'm just, like I said, I work in the mess hall, learn a little bit about food service, how to handle food and serving and so forth. Plus, like I said, I do the alternative violence program too, which keeps me pretty busy.
Religion is very important, and the reason why religion is so important is because in the confines of a prison, when a man is in this atmosphere, it's important for him to have something to hold on to, a faith, something concrete that's going to give him hope, going to help him to make it through the bit. And sometimes the external support system is not as great as the internal support system. And so when you have faith in God, and we're not talking about a particular faith community, but faith in God, plus that ability to call on God in prayer, through meditation, through reading, it's able to help you to sustain, to make it from day to day, and also to evaluate yourself.
I work here in the Protestant chapel. I'm Reverend Hunt's assistant, so oftentimes if he's not here or the volunteers aren't here for whatever reason, I have to teach a Bible study or I have to preach a sermon. And when you preach morality inside a place where immorality is the norm, is the accepted behavior, it becomes very unpopular. And what happens is you get branded as anything from a snitch to you're working with the administration to you're selling out, you're a punk, you're soft. When you tell people to do what's right, and you try to live by example by what's doing right. Because if you're not doing wrong, then obviously to those who are doing wrong, then you're an adversary, you're an opponent.
Prison is basically a place where you have to be against the system, because most people, they come to prison and they automatically peg themselves as being political prisoners. And that's, the farthest thing from the truth. And one of the main things about being in prison is that you have to begin to take responsibility, for your actions in the past, which have brought you here. Once you begin to take responsibility for those actions, then you will begin to make a conscious effort to want to change, because it's very easy to blame your situation on other people. So when you come in, a lot of guys, they come in and they're coming in younger, and they're coming in more often, more repetitiously, because they go out and they come back, they go out and they come back. And the more they come back, the angrier they become. And the whole thing is that we know that the officers that work here, they have jobs, they have families. This may not be what they want to do. And there are other people who also call the shots, also from a little further up. And a lot of stuff doesn't make sense, that goes on. But you have a lot of drugs in prisons. Guys come in, the program's not adequate, for them, and they get caught up in little, drug debts, gang violence, whatever the case may be, and they begin to be angry, and their whole thing is just to tear down and not to build up. They're so busy, they're not working on themselves. They're not trying to change themselves. They're only trying to make do with this environment that they're in. And a lot of them end up having a very rude awakening. Very rude.
A lot of men come in and they have known a faith community. They strayed away from it. And that's part of the reason why they got jammed up. It's because they left their faith community. I used to go to church, and I stopped going, and I started hanging in the street. A lot of men find God here, and when you always hear people talk about jailhouse religion, yes, it's part of the survival kit, because we tell people that one of the things you need to do when you come to jail is you need to keep yourself healthy. You don't want to get sick in jail because you're not going to have mama or your wife or your girlfriend to take care of you. So you got to eat, you got to take care of yourself, stay healthy. Learn all you can learn, read, and try to grasp as much knowledge as you can. And then we tell them also to get involved in a faith community. All of our sermons are geared towards hope. We try to let them know that hope is very important. And we try to do everything we can to let them know that God still loves them, and that there is room for reconciliation with God, that he hasn't turned his back on them, that it's they who have turned their backs on him. And we just preach the gospel. And so on Sunday morning, you can look out in the congregation, you may see a Muslim, you may see someone from the Jewish chapel here, someone from the Catholic chapel may be here, and someone from our chapel may be over in the Catholic chapel. But it's a matter of we allow them to come back and forth, and whatever can help them, that's what's important. And we hope to have a better person when it's all over.
Me tienen que ayudar y me contestan, por favor. Vamos a practicar la multiplicación de dos cifras. 3 cifras arriba y 2 cifras abajo. ¿Con qué número empezamos? 9. ¿Qué vamos a decir? 9 por 3. ¿Qué hago? 7 y llevo 2. Para que no se los olvide, si quieren pueden poner el 2 aquí chiquitico y así no se les olvida que llevan 2. This is the bilingual class. I teach inmates from a very low level to the GED level. I have my higher classes in the morning. I have students that are pre-GED and GED level, that is 5.9, reading level to 12.9. In the afternoon, I have my lower level, which is the adult basic education. They are from 0 reading level to 4.9. All the teaching is done in Spanish. I try to get them to learn to read and write, and the basic math in the morning. We test every 4 months. Once they get tested and they test at 5.0 or above, they get transferred to my morning class.
In school, we have a mandatory program for anyone that reads below 8.0. And we have approximately 10 classes, and we service about 500 inmates, AM and PM. And basically in English, an inmate that reads below 8.0, we look at his reading score, and we place him in various levels, in English or in Spanish. So for instance, if an inmate reads from 0 to 4.9, he's placed in an adult basic education class. If he reads from 5.0 to 7.9, he's placed in a pre-GED class. And if he reads 8.0 and above, he's placed in a GED class. Now, a lot of times we have inmates that feel they're too old or they don't want to go to school, and we have to take measures to work with security to say that this is important, you have to come, and you have to learn how to read and write. And Central Office's philosophy behind it is there were a lot of inmates that were leaving the institutions that were illiterate, and they said, we're going to put a stop to it, and at least we want them to learn how to read and write. We also service the bilinguals with the same things. 8.0 and below is mandatory. 8.0 and above is voluntary. We have 2 evening GEDs at night. It's volunteer for inmates that work during the day. We hold 2 graduations a year, and the guys love it. They feel good. We build up their self-esteem. More importantly, we want to teach them that it's important to learn how to read and write and to get their GED.
What do the inmates think about this program?
The inmates enjoy the program because it gives them an opportunity to perhaps pick up their high school diploma or the equivalency while they're here. Maybe they didn't get it on the streets for a number of reasons, but it gives them an opportunity to feel that they're learning and progressing, and hopefully when they become free again upon release, they can build upon that. So they like it.
Boyfriend. I come usually once to twice a week. That's about the only times that I can come because it is quite a bit of a far ride for me. And we just visit. I mean, this is the visiting room. This is as far as you get. They do have an outside visiting room in the summertime that you can go out to. There's a lot of families. There's a lot of people with children coming in here to visit their father or who it be, and that's hard. You can see that it's a stress on the children, it's a stress on the family, but this is the only way. At least you can have a contact visit. At some prisons or some other ways, you don't have contact visits.
All visitors remain in your assigned seat. All inmates stand, face forward, do not lean on tables and chairs for the 11 o'clock count. All inmates stand, o'clock count. All inmates, stand. All visitors remain in your assigned seat.
He was parole violated in December and had been transferred to a few different places. He will hopefully stay here because this is his home, as they call it, till October. And then after October, he'll be on probation from October to April, and then that will be the end of his sentence. We miss our relationship that we had, the personal contact. You don't have that. You have no spontaneity. You know, it's the time that you're here, your time is spent talking about little things because you miss each other so much, but you don't have major conversations, or you just miss that everyday life. You miss that everyday being with that person as much as you can, especially when you care for them and you love them. It's very hard. It's very, very hard.
It is rough, you know, but I deal with it just each day at a time, you know. I visit them as much as I can, you know, which is just about every day and once on the weekend. It's hard though, you know, seeing him every day and then going home and being alone. It's hard. But, you know, we've been doing this 6 years. You know, I married him in prison, and I knew what I was getting myself into, you know, and hopefully he'll be home soon.
Did you know him before he was in prison?
No, I didn't. No, I started writing him letters, fell in love with him, went to Attica to meet him, fell in love and married him in Attica in '91.
What's your daily life like outside here compared to yours?
Well, pretty much the same. He tells me what he does when he goes back to his cell. I tell him what I do when I go back to my apartment. I have my children, but my children are all grown up now, you know, and they're on their own. So I'm on my own. So my life is pretty much what his is. You know, it's very lonely.
Mine? Well, it's pretty boring. You know, I come down here, I get my visit, I'll go back. Really, there ain't nothing to do. I could go to the gym if I want. I can go to the yard. That's really about it. You know, but usually what I do, I'll go back. You know, I eat. You know, just wash out my laundry. You know, and just get ready for the next day. Listen to my radio. That's about all I can do. You know, can't have TVs here, so that's about the whole thing of the life here, and just survival. You know, staying away from the idiots and staying. You know, that's how you survive. You know. Yeah. I'm definitely not coming back. I'm a home improver, so I'm going to try to get back in the business of doing that, home improvement, because I definitely ain't coming back. You know, I got to stay out there. I got responsibilities. I love my wife. You know, we've been married 6 years. She's been staying with me for 6 years now. I mean, that's a long time in jail. There's people that been married. They come to jail. Their wife leaves them in 6 months. You know, and I didn't even know her out there. I met her in jail. You know. I got to do my best. This is my first time ever in jail. I just got a big bid. So, you know, I ain't never coming back, you know.
lot of different mentalities, first of all. You're like a psychiatrist, trying to always get into somebody's head and understand where they're coming from for the day. Every day is a different situation. So you try to be as pleasant as you can in dealing with that situation. And sometimes that doesn't work for you. So then you have to change your styles up, and you got to be a little bit more aggressive with the inmates per se. And like I said, you especially if you've been in the business for as long as I've been in the business 16 years now. So you get to know the inmates, and the relationship grows a little bit deeper. So when you talk to the inmates, they seem to respect you because it's trust involved. I mean, you just don't receive trust from somebody as soon as you see them. So you have to earn it, earn the respect from them. That way they give you the respect back.
Some people never had a lifestyle until they come to penitentiary, if that's what they choose. If they choose to be told to do things each and every inch of the way of their lifespan, you could have it all right here. But you can't leave when you want to. You understand? You're told when to take a shower. You're told when you can go to work. You're told when you can't do this or when you can't do that. And who wants to live that type of lifestyle? But if you're sentenced for a crime that you've committed, you will be accommodated. You know what I mean? You will be accommodated.
I leave the job here. I go home. I separate myself from this job. I've done that for 18 years. I don't even discuss this with my family. I come to work. My family problems, I leave at the front door. It's like two separate lives. One on the outside, one on the inside, and you got to keep that separate. When you start mixing the two, I see that there could be problems. When you start mixing you have problems at work, you bring them home. Now you're bringing stress that you had on the job home. And you have enough problems at home. You don't need the job to bring that, make that atmosphere worse. So I keep it separate. It's easier for me. That's how I deal with it.
At this point, I've been in prison about 7.5 years. I've been in Sing Sing for almost 6. And it's a difficult life. It's difficult in the sense that for me, I know that I put myself here, but it's difficult in the sense that, being in a position now where I've learned from my mistakes, where I've seen other people's mistakes and seen where I can do better and can be a productive member of society, it's difficult because I'm seeing my life pass me by. I'm seeing my child grow up. She was 3 months old when I was incarcerated. She'll be 8 in October. And seeing her grow up and seeing all those things that I've missed, that really makes it hard. It's painful more than anything else. The bottom line is that when you go in that cell at night, it's just you and yourself. And the problem is a lot of guys can't deal with themselves. They're guilty for what they did. They feel bad about what they did, but they don't know how to express it. They don't really understand what true remorse is. They don't understand it. You understand? So when you go in that cell late at night, you're in there by yourself. It's just you and your crime. And that's the most difficult time of the day for anybody who's ever been in prison.
Like this is a road that you have to come down in order to achieve whatever you want to achieve in life. But at the end of it, it's only a road that gets stopped. This is a lonely place to be. And it's like, it's really in all reality like you're someone's slave because you're forced to do things that you don't want to do. But by you being in prison, you have to do these things. And, if what I'm saying can make a difference between a person 15, 16, 13 years old coming to prison, I speak, with a compassion for my younger brothers and sisters out here, but respecting them coming inside here, behind this wall. There's no game. Every day somebody's getting stabbed. Some guys are just taking their lives because of the pressure that they can't deal with coming into prison. So this is what you will face when you come in here.
But like any other job, you get used to it. You get used to it. You know, as a correction officer, it's a difficult job. You're dealing with a lot of mentalities, you're dealing with a lot of characters, you're dealing with a lot of moods, and you're dealing with a lot of mood swings. You know, and it's a stressful job. It's a stressful job. It's a frustrating job. And like I said previously, you know, we come in here to do 8 hours, 8 safe hours. Sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes, you know, some of us wind up getting hurt. And when one of us gets hurt, we all feel it. You know, that's how it is in law enforcement. That's how it is behind the walls.
Just not to have your freedom is like, I mean, so what? We watch a little TV. I mean, you need to do something. To wake up every morning, I mean, you know, the same routine, you know, and like, for instance, I had a death in the family the other day. Now, I would like to be there for my father, but I can't, and that's difficult. I mean, I'm going to be able to go down to, my grandmother died, go down there for an hour, but it's not the same. You know, now is the time when he would need me, and I can't be there. You know, but that's not society's fault, that's my fault. But still, I mean, it's not, we really don't have as much as, you know, people think in here. So it's not, I don't think, like in the 60s it was a little different. People were sentimental toward prisons, but that's all changed because of so much violence. And I understand that. You know, people see a woman getting raped or an old lady getting beat up. You know, I mean, how are they going to feel? You know what I mean? I can understand that. I think that they judge crimes that are minority crimes, like, you know what I mean, that don't happen. A lot of people don't beat up old people or rape women. You know, that's a small minority of people. But they label us as all like that, and I think that's wrong. You know, I think you have to look at each individual, because some of us, you know, really could go home now and make it. You know, and live just as same as everyone else. And I feel that I will. I go home and I go to board in 2 months. I could be going home. And there's no way they'll get me back here. I mean, this is my second time in prison. Maybe I grew older, you know, and I'm not as stupid as I was when I was young, but they won't get me here no more. You know, I had enough.
Seen younger crime inmates coming in younger, more violent, without respect. They don't give no respect for me, let alone a fellow inmate. The gangs, gang-related activity. So it's more a young and more violent clientele that we're getting, opposed to when I first started in 1978.
Yes. It's hard to pull them away from the gangs, where you can get a man individually and talk to him individually, and then you can get some results out of him. But since dealing with the gang environment that's going on here now, they're more family-oriented to their gang than rather come and talk to you about, you know, what can I do to get myself together to get out of here. You know, so.
This is a society within a society. What's going on the streets? What's going on in behind the walls?